Hi, everybody. Some familiar faces. This is great. Good to see you all. I see Beth. Hi, Melissa. Tanya, good to see you. Suzanne, there's Sabrina. A lot of familiar faces. I'm going to give this just a moment for folks to sort of get on and organize with their audio. And there's Sue Ford. Hi, Sue. It's not fair when I say hi and you're not allowed to say hi, so I just look for waves. Tanya, is Greg hiding around there somewhere? I'm looking through all the windows here. And the chat function is enabled if people wanted to throw anything in there or ask questions. All right. So I've got 5:01. I try to start on time to get everyone organized, and a little later on, given that it's not a huge group, I might be okay. You know, I'll work with my tech team here with Tammy. Maybe we can unmute folks if necessary. But let me go over just some guidelines, some rules, and you know, it's nice to see so many people on here and familiar faces. So first and foremost, Chuck Lloyd. I'm the president of White Mountains Community College, and you know what we've tried to do here is over communicate everything we're trying to do. And hello to Chuck Henderson. I'd like to acknowledge him as well. Good to see you. We're going to be using the chat function throughout. So if you've got questions, please put that over in the chat function. A little later on, I'll be asking Colby just to repeat those so I can keep up with them. And I thought what I would do is provide sort of an overview of our fall reopening plans, but also this is really meant to be somewhat interactive to be able to answer some questions. So I guess I'll take us a little bit back to the beginning from March when we quickly went 100% remote at that time, March 15, 16. We quickly shifted, and I want to offer kudos to, I know we have some of our faculty and staff on this call. I wanted to acknowledge and thank them for the work they did to transition our students 100% remote. And since that time, really been looking at all of our processes, policies, ways of doing business, and how we've transitioned really to be able to operate in a remote setting, and now be able to slowly transition some of those aspects back that make sense. And I'm putting the emphasis on that makes sense. Throughout the course of the summer, we've, you know, aside from K-12, as a college, I would say we've had the benefit of being able to slowly roll out pieces of our plan and pilot certain aspects. For example, back in early June, we were asked to submit some of our reopening summer plans to the Gopher Committee at the governor's level, but also through Department of Health and Human Services, because what we needed to do is we had to finish up the labs from March, April, and May that were not able to complete face-to-face. Some good examples of that were our welding, our industrial mechanics programs, our massage therapy programs, and really we mirrored what industry standards were while also meeting our screening and social distancing technical aspects as well while on campus. And knock on wood, I will just say those have been hugely successful. We just completed, we graduated our industrial mechanics. They just finished. Our welding students just finished. Our commercial driver training students over in Littleton, 9 of those students just finished. And we completed our massage therapy with, I'm calling it a 100% success for a variety of reasons. For the, first of all, the way the students handled their responsibility as students coming in, wearing masks, social distancing, completing the screening procedures, and really following all of the guidelines we've asked them in accordance with the CDC and with DHHS at the state level. Beyond that, I'm calling it a success because we did not have any issues around cases, around confirmed cases, around anything related to increasing cases in any of the northern 3 counties based on our students or our reopening plan whatsoever. So being able to say that at the back end of what we did this summer, I find to be a huge success. But I breezed through all of that in a 2 to 3 minute summer to say there was a lot of work that went into that this summer from our faculty, our staff, PJ Sear, our campus safety, is on. I want to acknowledge him as well, because he was instrumental in a lot of the screening and tracking process as well. So we've had a pilot, we've had I will say, a shell of a plan in place. Given that students typically for White Mountains and within the entire community college system register for fall courses in early spring. So literally in March, when we were about to go 100% remote, some of our students were already starting to register for fall courses. What we've had to do is we've had those courses, those sections there, the students, we knew in programs what they had to take. It was how they were going to take those courses that had to change. So with that in mind, what we've had to prioritize for the fall is, first of all, who absolutely needs to take a course face-to-face, or it doesn't make sense to run it. What falls into that category, I'll read you our welding program, face-to-face labs. You can't weld online. I know, Satch, you're on here. You can't weld online. We've got our diesel heavy equipment will be running their labs face-to-face in a separate facility. As some of you know, just over on Perry Street, we have a separate diesel facility. Automotive, our culinary and baking, and some of our nursing lab components as well. So we've really prioritized technical labs. The other aspect we've prioritized as a face-to-face is where our first-year students really need some face-to-face contact with our faculty. And what we've looked at is, first of all, there's a lot of research, as I know we have a lot of educators on the call here. There's a lot of research around first-year college students and interaction with faculty and their peers being a retention strategy, keeping those students in courses and persisting on to the spring term. So we've prioritized that, and then also looked at the hybrid modality in that, rather than, for example, coming on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 to 10 o'clock in the morning for a course, students would then, as a hybrid, come, maybe it's once a week, coming, getting face-to-face and interaction, and the other aspects being done online. So hybrid is really making up for us right now a large portion of some face-to-face, primarily online. That's really making up a lot of what we're trying to accomplish. And our students, Suzanne Wazaleski's on the call, our institutional researcher, and she just pulled some data for us earlier this morning and said, typically our hybrid courses, we have about 10% of our students in hybrid courses. This fall, we have 50% of our students in hybrid courses. So that also tells me that students, whether they're coming fresh out of high school and just finished in that type of modality, or understanding that, it makes more sense to come, once or twice to campus versus 3, 4, 5 times. It just makes sense, and there's a comfort level there as well. We also have seen a significant increase in our online, 100% online courses. Now, this doesn't mean that a student is necessarily individually only taking online courses. This may mean that 3 of their 4 courses might be 100% online, and that other one could be a hybrid, so they're on campus a day or 2, or it might be in a technical lab program as well. But just to throw those percentages out again, we have 14% of our courses are offered face-to-face, 14%. And about 50% or so are hybrid, and the difference being 100% online. So if we're saying we're reopening all 3 of our centers and we're going to be open for business, but the reality of number of students actually in the hallways, actually on a given day and time, is going to be rather minimal. I think our highest peak, if I recall, is somewhere in the 130 students on the Berlin location, spread throughout the entire building. Any of you that have been at the building, and I'm looking around, I think most of you have, there's a wing that will be, some of that will be nursing down one wing. There's a second floor. There's the 300 wing, it's called, where there's also automotive. There's a welding lab. And also we're calling in the Berlin location, but also there's a diesel heavy equipment lab, as I mentioned, just down the road. So realistically, these students are spread out over 100,000 square feet of space. So spacing and social distancing is not an issue. I also want to thank our academic affairs team, because in a typical year, a normal year, a lot of courses would get out, let's say Wednesday at 11:50, and they would flood the bistro and everyone would go to lunch at one time. It would be this big group. They've staggered entrance and exit times. Carrie Perro's on the call. She said, you know, some courses may get out at 11:40, then 11:50, then noon. So people can stagger to the parking lot, to the bistro after, and courses are starting at different times. So you're not having even the traffic in the hallways and restrooms and whatnot as well. So we've tried to be very intentional about how people are coming and going, the volume of students and the time happening, but more importantly, in between when some of our classrooms are being used, that there is a gap of time to get in and do cleaning in between. And as we start to broach the cleaning aspect, I thought I would cover a couple of pieces. One, every single classroom has a cleaning station. So we are asking faculty and students to do some cleaning after themselves, certainly. Separate from that, we have contracted with an outside vendor to come in 3 separate times throughout the day to come in and do cleaning. This is doorknobs and surfaces and whatnot as well. And then additionally, there is an expectation throughout the building of coming and going. You know, one of the neatest things Kara in our bistro came up with is she's got a sanitation station before you come up to get your food and one on the way out. So there is not possible in between that food opportunity, I call it, to have anyone that has not sanitized their hands. So just little things like that that I think have been very thoughtful by the task force. And as I do speak about the task force, we've had a task force in place since late March, early April, and some of those folks are on this call. I just want to acknowledge and thank the task force, because everything I'm talking about, it's easy for me to stand here and just list all this stuff, but they've put this through their weekly meeting of an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, Tuesday task force, if you will, and really been very thoughtful, anything from directional arrows and signage and one-way entrance and exits up stairwells and down, and how people are spacing out desks and chairs, using only hard surface chairs, not cloth chairs, really just gone through the entire building, every square inch, and that task force has really vetted all of these implementations. So my thanks to that group. And what I want to, I suppose, add to that is, there has been a mega cost to a lot of this stuff. You know, I talked about hybrids and going online. There's a lot of technology behind all of that. And maybe in a moment, I'll ask Scott Fields, our CFO, to comment just on some of the financial aspect here, because we owe a lot of gratitude both federally and statewide for some of the funding that has come in. So I do want to touch on that. But also there have been, you know, costs associated with the everyday doing business. Just takes longer, is more difficult, not just technology to transition, but also the PPE, which I think in the state of New Hampshire, we can all agree we've been very lucky with the volume of PPE we've gotten and the distribution through the community college system of New Hampshire. So I say all of that because I feel we've got a very solid plan in place. We've tested it this summer, which to 100% success. And you know, rolling out in the fall here in 10 days or so, I'm really excited about. The other piece I should mention is we've been bringing people back slowly and steadily. So working backwards from our classes starting on August 31st, what we've done is said, you know what, before that, we're going to have to get everyone acclimated. We can't just, you know, bust the doors open, say, everyone, let's go for it. So we've really been staffing up since late July, bringing in teams, whether it's in our front offices, admissions, financial aid, academic affairs, but also then our faculty just came back, and I say just came back, a lot of them have been working right throughout the summer, particularly members of our task force. And then in these last couple of weeks, we've been having what we're calling mini orientations. Throughout the summer, we would typically have 3 very large orientations, 150 people in one big room, and then spread them all around. Clearly, that's not feasible. What we've done is break them down really by academic programs or a couple of programs, knowing there'd be small groups. So, you know, today's a great example. We had 8 or 9 health science students in, just first of all, showing them what the screening process looks like, expectations around masks, the flow of the building, but also answering their questions, getting them registered and organized, and making sure when they leave, they feel comfortable saying, you know what, I can see myself going in there, feeling comfortable, taking my class or 2, whatever it is, and not just showing up on the first day with a lot of anxiety. So, you know, we check off the boxes around orientation, but really the orientation applies for just what does it look like and feel like, you know, during a pandemic. So we've really been trying to do that. We're doing that at all of our centers as well. just because wherever you're going to be taking your class, we want you to feel comfortable. I would also say this has also served as a way for our faculty to sort of get in and feel, what is this going to look like? I mentioned our health science. Ann Morin, one of our professors, was speaking to a group of 9 or 10 health science students in a classroom, spaced apart, with masks. And that's going to be exactly what she's going to be doing in a week and a half from now. So I think just some mini trial runs and easing into this has been helpful. I know personally it's been helpful just to kind of figure out flow and make sure we've got masks on, and walking by and knowing that when we get to a place of 3 or 4 or 5 people in a hallway, we're all looking for exit strategies. I'm calling it, like, which way are you going? Let's not get too close. And it's really a new culture we're building. As I mentioned to our at our all college meeting this morning, we met with, first of all, Zoom's awesome because we had about 100 people. I think that's the most that have ever been at one of our all college meetings. We had 100 people in there, and I just said, no, we've got a new culture. We literally are building a new culture starting this fall. We had a culture before March 15th. We had somehow a survive type of culture through the last 3.5, 4 months, whatever it was. But now we've got an opportunity to have a new culture and being proactive and making sure our students and faculty and staff are all part of it, and holding each other accountable for the health and safety of one another are paramount. So I mentioned all of that, and I want to touch on one more thing. I do want to, in a moment, Scott, ask you just to speak to some of our CARES Act and Gopher funds, because we've been working very closely to do whatever it takes to financially support our students. I talked about expenses at the college level, but as well as I do, the student level is what we're trying to make sure they can finance their education. That's always an issue, even more so in the pandemic. So I think we've been doing a lot there. And Scott, if you don't mind maybe chiming in on those couple of pieces, I would certainly welcome you to do so, please.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. So as Chuck alluded to, we've looked at funding our students and our operations. So there's 2 sides of the same coin. If you'll allow me just a few minutes to explain that to everybody, I'd be happy to get into detail. So, for us, most importantly, we as a college, Just White Mountains, over the last 6 months have been able to, between state, federal, local aid, allocated out over $325,000 directly to our students to help them cover costs of rent, food, medical expenses, helping for things that they would need for school, whether it's improved IT or computers. So we've been very proud of that, and we've been very happy to make sure that that happens from the funding agencies to ensure that our students can continue to succeed, not only as, on campus, but as human beings too in their community. So that's something that we're very proud of. On the flip side of that, we have roughly $500,000 in our bank accounts right now that are set up for things like plexiglass, some of the things that Chuck alluded to earlier, stickers, being able to bring our labs up to a safe place for the students, like the welding, to make sure that we're encouraging people to come back on campus and do what they need to do. So out of that $500,000 that we've been allocated between federal CARES Act money and Gopher funds from the state of New Hampshire, we've got slightly more than half of that has either been spent or allocated on getting extra materials, making sure that we have enough PPE for our faculty, students, and staff. And, we're just being very diligent in how we approach it, but making sure we're leaving no stone unturned to just make sure that we're not missing anything as we go through this process. So, again, we're really excited about supporting the students, and we're really excited about being able to get the facility back into a place where everybody is comfortable, safe, confident that when they come back to White Mountains, they are in good hands when they arrive. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Scott. And, just another kudos to both our federal delegation. I know Chuck Henderson's here on behalf of Senator Shaheen, and Sue Ford. I know you've had a hand in this at the state level. The funding that has come through, I would say it's called the just-in-time funding, right? It's the funding where we had our hands up in April and May saying, we're not sure what we're going to do. And by the time it came, we knew we had to purchase technology. We knew we needed PPE. And, the whole time, because we did have some conversations with Senator Shaheen being one of them, Congressman Pappas at the time as well, just saying, what about the students? We've got to take care of the students. So as those pieces started coming through, and at the state level, the Gopher funds, that's $6 million to the community college system for tuition assistance. is huge because it's for new students, not just returning students. So it's really kind of keeping people going and starting this fall. So I think that's been excellent so far. Scott's been masterful about with his financial services team as far as administering as well. And regarding technology, I want to go back just a tad because some of you may have read in the newspapers around sort of this one IT platform from K to 20 that recently has come out, that the Canvas learning management system is being used. The Department of Education is using it now, K-12, and the public university system is adapting it. The luckiest thing for us is we were already on it. Canvas we have been using for several years now. And we've been doing online education for over 20 years. So the luckiest thing we have as a community college system is we've been doing this. This has been going on for some time, and we're in a good place. So now, down the road, as students are coming out of high school, they will have already used Canvas and literally transitioning right into White Mountains Community College or the community college system. It'll be the same platform, the same learning management system. It'll be, very comfortable for them. So I think that's a huge win that maybe was forced through, figured out much faster than it might have otherwise. So I hate using this silver lining term, but there are some things coming out of this that have maybe pushed through a little faster that I do think we're going to really benefit our students. So I wanted to put that out there as well. And I guess some of the other things, speaking collaboratively, within the North Country, I don't have to say this, but I'm going to, is I think we've all worked together really well. From March, I keep throwing out March 15th because that was the day the whole world changed really for us. But, in the North Country, the first thing that we did is some of the North Country superintendents reached out and said, you know what, every Monday we should be on a call. Every Monday at 10:30, I meet with the North Country superintendents, whether it's Dave Backler, Julie King. We are just talking all the time because we were all developing reopening plans, but also talking with, we've got a Tuesday at 4 o'clock call that we're talking with local healthcare professionals, Ken Gordon over at Family Resource. We've got everybody's on this call and really just doing weekly updates. And what we've learned from that is, how much overlap and communication we need to have, because God forbid, there is a spike in cases. What does that mean for all of us? Not just one entity. What does it mean for all of us? And, we even, as you're probably well aware and had to do in your work as well, is we've got to play out scenarios. At all times, we are playing out scenarios A, B, C, and D, and how, working with local superintendents and area schools, how that impacts us. For example, we have a lot of students with children in the school system. And if they're only going back 2 days, or if they're going back several days, what does that look like for scheduling? What does that look like for childcare and coverage? And at what point, I'm always asking this to my local superintendents, is at what point do you go 100% remote? Because we need to be right there. Is if those children are going to be home 100%, we need to make sure we're able to look at that. So one of the things we've done is worked, so the nursing homes are using a per 100,000 15 cases puts them at a spike. 15 cases per 100,000 people in a population. So what we're doing in the greater Berlin area, for example, is using a 30,000 with all the surrounding towns. So, you divide it by 3, and when there's a spike, it's really 5 confirmed cases, active cases at one time. That's what our superintendents are using. So we're sort of working in parallel to have some communication with them of what that would look like as well. So trying to be in communication with them at all times. And also the other good thing with our collaboration and these conversations I've been part of is really to make sure that, a good example today is spacing. So our welding program is oversubscribed at the moment. We don't have enough space in our lab for them to be all socially distanced. So I called Julie King over at Berlin. I said, what time is your CTE program done? She says 2:30. I said, what do you think about us running an evening cohort of welding over at that lab? Could we use it? We went over there. We've just visited. We looked at supplies. We're talking about billing me for oxygen and gases and bringing over materials. But it's very, very close to happening that we're probably going to run a section over there just because we need the space. We need the space and be able to have the distance. So we're trying to get creative together as well. So I think it's just more of that, this happens in the North Country all the time, but I'm proud of the collaboration. I welcome it, and we're just sort of going to continue about that way. So What I'm going to do, I see a bunch of questions flying in. I'm going to turn it over to Tammy. Can we show, we have a 2-minute and 49-second video just so you can see what our facility in Berlin looks like. And then I'll transition to take some questions if that's okay with folks.
Welcome to White Mountains Community College. The fall semester brings some new opportunities and changes here at the college. To ensure that we all have reviewed our health status, the college will use an electronic application to speed entry to the campus. We need to assess our own health through the following screening questions. Have you been in close contact with a confirmed case of COVID-19 within the last 14 days? Have you had a fever or felt feverish in the last 72 hours? Are you experiencing any new respiratory symptoms, including a runny nose, sore throat, cough, or shortness of breath? Are you experiencing any new muscle aches or chills? Have you experienced any new change to your sense of taste or smell? Downloaded instructions will be available to allow you to get logged in and complete the sign-up. Each day before you come to campus, you will complete the questionnaire. If you feel well and have no symptoms, you will receive a pass to come onto campus. Welcome Center staff are here to assist you should you have any questions. We have installed plexiglass shields at the counter and have set up a one-way flow through the Welcome Center. Arrows help guide you to enter from the left and exit through the door on the right. Down the hall, we find the library. As in other areas of the college, computers and tables are spaced in accordance with the recommended guidelines for physical distancing. Students are encouraged to purchase their books online through the College Bookstore website. Books can be shipped directly to your home. Should you need to go to the bookstore, staff will be available to assist you. We know that we will all still need to eat during our time on campus. Breakfast and lunch are available. Single seating tables in the bistro are arranged with physical distancing in mind. If the bistro is full, you may use the tables outside in the Wellness Center area.
Class size is limited to the capacity of the room within the guidelines of physical distancing. We ask students to use the same seat throughout the entire semester. In labs, students will use, whenever possible, the same station or booth throughout the semester.
Each of us has a role to play in protecting ourselves and those around us. We are counting on each other. Remember, we are all in this together. We hope to see you soon, online, via Zoom, or in person on campus.
Right. Thank you, Tammy, for putting that up. And we just thought it made sense to give you sort of a view of what we've done with our facilities so you can sort of see that if you haven't had a chance to come at all anyway. So I do see there are some questions over here. I'm going to ask Colby to sort of moderate, and if there's something specific to whether it's academic or a center, I may bring in the rest of my leadership team as well. And why don't I do that at this moment just to introduce the leadership team for any folks that are out there. Kristen Miller, Vice President of Academic Affairs. Mark Damaris, Vice President of Student Affairs. Melanie Robbins is the Director of our Academic Centers. You all met Scott, who is our CFO and Head of Facilities, and Gretchen Talon with Human Resources. So why don't we turn it to Colby if you want to ask some questions, and feel free to throw more in the chat, and I've asked him just to sort of moderate.
So our first question is from Jen, and it has a couple of parts. She's concerned about masks being optional if there's a 6-foot separation between people in a 4-hour course, like A and P2. The second part is what ventilation measures are in place? Can windows be open? Does the HVAC system have HEPA filters, and how often are they replaced?
Okay, and I see there's been some pieces of answers there, and I guess the comprehensive answer is, and I just saw something about masks in restrooms as well. We're asking people to wear masks, and I say asking loosely, meaning we're requiring people to wear masks, as in if you're not wearing one in the hallway, we're going to tell you. And they're wearing them in all common areas. So this includes restrooms, but also the bistro. I will say the library, as I see Melissa, people are wearing masks there. And when I say, if you're 6 feet apart, I still see people wearing them in classrooms, in labs and whatnot. The only time really we've seen our students taking them off is when they're eating in the bistro. So your A&P course, I know the instructor over there. I know our instructors at many of our sites. There's no reason not to have them on. I would err on the side of having them on. And as I look at Melanie sort of nodding there, our CDT students, when they were over training, they were wearing them outside waiting to get into the truck. So we're erring on the side of having masks on as much as possible, literally, unless you're eating. I do want to, put the caveat there that there are some people that need to take basically a mask break. If you need to go outside and take a walk or take a break, a 4-hour course, you're going to have a break in it. Take a walk outside if you'd like to, and take it off and take some breaths or whatnot. But really, and we started this really this morning, talking with our faculty and staff, and I got a ton of head nods from the group as we're pushing for masks to be worn everywhere as much as possible. So, I mean, that's really, that's our only defense we've got right now, and that's really what we're strongly encouraging. The piece around HVAC I see was answered for all of our facilities. We've been paying attention. It looks like just 2 weeks ago it was replaced over in Littleton, Melanie. So thank you for that. Much appreciated. So Colby, what else you got over there?
Our next question comes from Jody. What happens with the labs if the curriculum goes 100% remote?
Kristen, I don't know if you wanted to take that, our VP of Academics.
Yes, so I was trying to figure out how to unmute myself, sorry. So there were a few questions about classes. One of them being, how do I know if my class is face-to-face or not? I think that was Melissa who asked that. You can go onto our website and our schedule. If you click on our schedule on the website, there's a key essentially that describes what each section code is, and that will give you an idea if your class is face-to-face. The majority of those 14% of classes that are face-to-face are a hybrid, so you're going to have some remote opportunity as well. If we do have to go 100% remote for those lab-based courses, we have ordered lab kits in anticipation of having to be remote. So from now until November, we are anticipating being able to be on campus face-to-face as the schedule has described, and your labs will occur in the lab. After Thanksgiving break, every course is remote until the end of the semester, which is really about 2 weeks-ish. But we are prepared with lab kits for students to take home should you need to finish out those labs remotely.
Thank you, Kristen. I guess I will also add is we've been working with our faculty. One of the things we started 3 months ago is we had decided, as of Thanksgiving, we're going remote, so we're not inviting our students back. So we've really asked all of our faculty, any chance you can, to front load labs while we are face-to-face, and on first right away in September is to front load things. Now, one of our scenarios of a plan B or plan C is, say we have to shut down for a week or a set of 2 weeks in early October because of some sort of increase in cases or whatever it might be. Does that maybe give us the opportunity that now in December we might have 2 weeks? We've sort of left ourselves a cushion, if you will, behind Thanksgiving because we had sort of planned not to use that at this point. So we've got sort of this plan B and C if we need to. I think it's important to point that out. One thing I didn't mention earlier, I just wanted to cover before I do take another question, Colby, is sort of our operations for all centers. Currently, we are only going to be open for WMCC community, meaning faculty, staff, and students. We are not going to be open to the public, where in the past our public has come in to use computers or be part of library groups or events and whatnot. Unfortunately, we need to be closed to the public and specifically just for our students, faculty, and staff access. So I just want to make sure I made that statement as well. But Colby, I'll turn it back to you.
The next question is from Jacob Ramsey. It's about entering the building. Will we be restricted to using the main entrance, or will other entrances be available?
great question, and it does differ a little by center in Berlin. I do see PJ on. PJ, could I put you on the spot as our campus safety? And he's our head screener as well, has been taking care of us all summer. If you want to speak to the front entrance and what it's going to look like at the other entrances.
Sure, I can do that. Good evening, everybody. No, still in the afternoon. But yeah, for normal operations, we'll have 2 points of access. The main entrance will be used and the Wellness Center entrance will be used. At both of those points, there will be screeners. So you'll go through the health screening there before you get into the building, and you'll also be able to exit from those points. While we're on the topic of exits, you can also exit from doors throughout the building. There will be certain circumstances where we'll have to close that Wellness Center entrance, but that will be dictated by circumstances as they present themselves. If that is the case, there'll be a sign there that'll tell you that the main entrance is the entrance at that time, and we'll direct you there, and we'll use that until we can use both entrances again.
Excellent. Thank you, PJ. So the main entrance and the Wellness Center door, and then each of the centers have just the one entrance. So depending if you're in Littleton or North Conway as well. PJ, thank you. And PJ's been instrumental in really not just the policy procedure side of this and screening, but also directions and spacing and measurements. I mean, there's been a lot of energy and effort put into this, so I appreciate that. Thank you. Colby.
Another question from Jacob about the spring. Will we possibly be remote during the spring?
So, you know, I mean, I'll welcome to Kristen to chime in too, but I guess I'll say in general that, you know, we've sort of piloted the summer. I think we've got a very strong plan for the fall with also some scenarios built in. And within those first couple of weeks into the fall, we'll probably be doing some evaluation, maybe some changing and tweaking. But I see the spring being very similar to the fall in planning. In fact, we've already got a lot of folks that are registered for spring already. One of the primary focuses before the pandemic hit was to get people registered on full year pathways for their planning purposes, for work life and whatnot. So we've already got some people on that. I think that we'll probably be in a similar percentage as a balance of hybrid, online, face-to-face, just modality-wise. But Kristen, I don't know if you wanted to touch on any of that separately.
Yep. Just to echo what you said, Chuck, I think that the spring could very well look a lot like what the fall looks like, with some tweaks, changes, the phases that we have with the red. Well, I'm going to start with the green because we're currently in green. So green, yellow, orange, red really gives us a lot of opportunity to toggle between different scenarios that we just, in the spring, in March, we didn't have that capability. We weren't sure what was going on. So we've just spent a lot of time planning to be able to go back and forth if we can. And then I anticipate the spring looking very much like the fall with maybe some changes. And then I see the next question is about the schedule. So Colby, I can just jump into that as well. So I think what we, tomorrow, my staff and I are looking at the schedule and we'll be making any final changes. Really the changes that will be made tomorrow are courses that are not running because of they're not enrolled or there's only one student. So we'll be working with our students in those situations. We won't be changing at this point any of the modalities of the courses. So if you look at what you're registered for and you compare it to the schedule and look at the key to determine if it's a face-to-face, it's a face-to-face. I mean, the only thing that would change, I think finalized is a tough word for us right now, because as we all know, especially if you are in education or have children that are in the public school system, nothing's final with COVID because we have a plan and then maybe the next week it changes a little bit. But I think we are pretty stable in our schedule right now. And the only thing that would change is if we see an increase in cases, and we'll have I think we'll all be aware of that, and the communication is out there. So after tomorrow, I'll give us till tomorrow, and then after tomorrow you can go onto the schedule and see what it looks like, and what is on the website is accurate and what we'll be running.
Thank you, Kristen. And in a perfect world, this would be much easier. We'd have this all done, but I should probably tell you, and Mark, I don't know if you wanted to comment on this, that we literally have students walking in the door every day and will for the next 7, 8, 9 days, right up through the first week of classes, to register. Whether they're learning their other opportunity fell through, isn't going to be online, deciding to come to college all of a sudden, or just changing their minds, that's what we're here for. Sure, for some students, we're a backup plan. We get that. But for some students, their life situation changes within this next week as we're starting our classes up August 31st. So, Mark has been, and his team have been extremely busy, not just these mini orientations, but bringing in applications and students calling and wanting to register. So what that does from his team and trickles over to these courses filling on Kristen's team, it flows, it's ever flow, very fluid for the next week and a half or so. But Mark, I didn't know if you wanted to comment on the enrollment frenzy we're in at the moment.
Sure, absolutely. I think that a lot of our students, whether they were with us in the spring and thinking about returning for this semester, or brand new students, everyone has their eye on what's happening with the current health situation and making their decisions based upon that. So we still have students that, I think at this point sort of are getting the fact we are open, we're ready to welcome them. We're hosting some events on campus to welcome them. And so the last 3 weeks especially have been really busy with faculty and staff of, processing new applications and registering students and helping students with financial aid, that sort of thing. And we anticipate that continuing right through the start of the first week of classes. And so we're here, we're open, we're prepared to assist students any way possible in the next few weeks and moving forward to the fall. But it's always a busy time in late August for community colleges, and it's especially busy now just because of the situation. But I think all the staff and faculty in the building have really risen to the challenge, and we're ready to start to kick off the semester in a couple weeks. So thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark. And we are certainly, it looks different, but to Mark's point, it's always a wild time these last couple of weeks as students are finalizing things. But I think anyone watching any media out there, they just saw, North Carolina, Chapel Hill, they were just going to go there, and all of a sudden, sorry, you're sending everyone back home. Well, those students are now scurrying. And guess what? Notre Dame just did it, Michigan. And I would not be surprised to see more of that in the region. Some of these 4-year schools do that. And we're trying to be here to help those students. So sure, if they figure that out in the next 8 or 10 days, great. But if they don't figure that out until week 1 or 2 of September, we're also talking right now about our late start courses, giving students an opportunity so they're not falling so far behind. So if they want to start with us, maybe it's in October, they can still get caught up and stay right back on track with us in the spring, because we foresee that happening. Some of these residential campuses where all it takes is 1 or 2 positives, you're living on a floor of 30 people in a building of 300 or 400 people, all of a sudden, that could happen. So we want to be here to support our communities. That's what we've always done, but really play that backup, plan, because I hate to say it, unfortunately, that's going to happen to some students, and we want to be here for them. So that's one of our ultimate goals. Colby, is there anything I've skipped over here? I know we kind of danced around with some of these.
We got another question from Jacob. It's about access to the building. Since it'll be restricted, will students need to bring some form of identification with them to enter the building?
Great question. Great question. And the tough thing is students will be getting their ID when they arrive at the Welcome Center. Jacob, I know you, so you're good. You can come in. One of the things I guess I would say is, as you're coming in, students or potential students are really the only ones. We're going to ask you that question. Are you a current student? Are you a potential student? Do you need to do some paperwork? That's really the honor system. We get that. But we'll unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, be turning away the public. If you're here to check out a library book, if you're here to use a computer, unfortunately, those are the only folks we're going to be turning away. Jacob, you're good to go in my book. Barb Tetro, do you have a sense of where your enrollment would be? That's the $1 million question, Barb. And if I'm being quoted, I'm overly optimistic right now. We're going to exceed our budget goal. We conservatively budgeted to be down 15% because I had to submit a budget in March. I think we land somewhere in the 7 or 8% down, but with the caveat that we're going to have a spike in October in the spring semester. I'll go on record with that. Scott, how do you feel about that? My CFO. I got a thumbs up there. So that's sort of my thinking. Barb, you should also know this is pretty much what I think about on a nightly basis. I've gotten to the point my wife even asks me that question just to make sure I'm thinking about it enough. So, but I feel really good about it. You know, I'll tell you from a leadership team and our CFO, we've been, you know, planning as much as you can for a pandemic, but we also, I double down on our students. Our students are, you know, working to complete the applications for tuition assistance. People have figured out that first come, first serve for the $6 million to the community college system. And we're fighting above our weight class. Our students as a proportion are applying for more of that than they are across the system because they're savvy, they need funding, and they, you know, see they can essentially be taking free courses as far as this will go. So
Chuck,
I feel good about it. Scott.
Can I just chime in for half a second to back up what you said with some numbers? So across the board, CCSNH as a whole on all 7 campuses has allocated out roughly $1 million. We have done close to 150,000 of that, which it's 15%, which doesn't sound like a whole heck of a lot, but we are up there with, talk about punching outside your weight class. We've allocated almost as much money as Nashua Community College, which is a city of 90,000 people. We're nipping at the heels of NHTI down in Concord and Manchester. So we're right behind them with that. But to Chuck's point, our students are resilient. They're educated. We're getting the word out to, again, first come, first serve, free money. Kind of hard to pass that up. So our students are definitely out there. And I want to just kind of elaborate one more second on that is, to Mark Damaris's group, the Welcome Center staff who are doing the phone calls and the advising center, they're reaching out to all those students. And if Chuck, you mentioned that for a second while I stepped away, I apologize, but the staff's done an amazing job of outreach. So that's the other half of our students getting all that free aid.
Yeah, and I guess I also wanted to touch on one of the segments of our enrollment population has been early college. We've seen a significant spike in high school students taking college courses. We saw a 300% increase in this summer. I anticipate seeing a large increase this fall as students are deciding whether they're not going back physically to high school or looking to get dual credit. Taking college courses really is a great option for some of these high school students. So I see that as a significant uptick for us in the enrollment area as well. And, if this goes on, nobody can predict how long the pandemic's going to last, but let's say it goes through this academic year and some of these students are picking up 12, 15, 18 credits. I see it as a natural fit to stay that one more year and a half, whatever it takes to get their degree here before going on. So I think, I hate to ever say this other silver lining, but some of these high school students may be getting their associate degrees a lot sooner at a less expensive rate and then being able to transfer on. So there's some true bonuses here. I had a great conversation earlier today with a student who went to Plymouth State to move in, and unfortunately it just it didn't work out for whatever reasons. She's going to be taking her health science courses at our Littleton Center, and she says, eventually maybe I'd like to go back to Plymouth. And well, let's get things figured out here first. You're going to save this much money. Oh, and by the way, you didn't know just by coming here, you're going to be eligible for tuition assistance. So not only is it cheaper anyways, you're going to be able to save money. I said, the likelihood is you're going to be taking some of these courses for free this fall. She says, really? She's already online, done her application. She's figured out her financial aid, changing the code to us. She's coming to the Littleton Center tomorrow to register. I mean, this is a true win. I mean, yes, it wasn't probably a beautiful interaction at Plymouth when you show up and things weren't aligned. But coming here, I mean, I'm like, this is like the best situation for this student, period. I mean, she could be going to school for free this fall. Pretty cool. Other questions? Kolb, did I miss any there? This is fun over Zoom to see all your faces and try to answer some questions. I appreciate it. Let's see. Anything else? You can't let me off the hook that easy. Usually there's a curveball down the road here. Let's see.
Jody just asked one if tuition assistance is still available.
Yes, get on our website. You know, Tammy, I don't know if you want to, can you quickly show up the website, where we click on COVID-19 at the red banner at the top of our website, and it brings you to that page. Here it is. Yep. Bang, right there. So that's our whole page right there with all of the information from COVID, any prior communications we've put out, all information around tuition assistance. And yes, the tuition assistance is still available. Again, first come, first serve. Go do it now. Go right to our page. And you know, I think the important thing to say is it's a pretty easy application. It's like a page and a half type of thing with real brief responses. So yes, the answer is yes to you, Jody. Thank you, Tammy. Jacob asked if he could see his advisor in person. Our advisors are offering by appointment in person, socially distanced, of course. You know, one of the neat things we've done in Berlin, I know in Littleton, you've got a small tent over there, but Berlin, we've got this giant 20 by 40 tent essentially out there that, you know, if you want to come meet outside, we can do that. I think one of our nursing faculty just booked a class to have out there under the tent while there's good weather. But yeah, you can make an appointment, email your advisor, and they will meet with you in person by and large. So I always recommend sending an email to confirm that. Good questions. All right. Anything else? Well, I can't thank this group enough for taking the time. You know, certainly, you know, you've got a million things going on, and I'm sure all of you have other Zoom meetings you're on throughout the day, so to add one more hour of screen time isn't always the most fun. But I do want to take a moment to thank my faculty, staff, and leadership team who are here, because these are the people that are making this all happen. And then to you students, thanks for joining. Certainly, we look forward to seeing you, serving you, making sure you're successful this fall and this year. And then hopefully at the end of this, handing you a diploma, hopefully in May, but at some point down the road. So I do want to, as I'm saying the diploma thing, I want to talk about commencement real quick. We are doing a face-to-face version of commencement, and that will be September 26th, really closed to the public, unfortunately, just for our graduates and for 4 of their chosen family members. So I just wanted to sort of put that out there, closed to the public, but Barb, we can talk offline about that a little bit as well. I saw something else just pop in here. I'm concerned about traveling to North Conway campus because I take care of my 1-month-old grandson. First of all, congratulations. Could I take those classes by Zoom or from home or the Berlin campus? I have a feeling we could shift some things around specifically because we haven't started yet. I would say email your advisor and we can shift some of that around. But 1-month-old grandson, congratulations. That's so cool. That's so cool. And Chuck Henderson, always a pleasure, kind sir. And I will just say we can connect Deborah offline here. If you want to reach out to your advisor or Kristen Miller directly, kmiller@ccsnh.edu.
So, and I can answer that question right now. That's already a virtual course. So you're good, Deborah.
Look at that.
But definitely reach out to your advisor if you need more if you have more questions. Yep. Yep.
Excellent.
More snuggles for that baby.
Yes. Focus on the 1-month-old. That's so cool. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. If you ever have questions or anything I can do, please send me an email directly. And again, thanks once again for our delegation, Sue and Chuck. Please thank the senator on our behalf. And Barbara, anything I can do for follow-up, I welcome some outreach. So thanks once again, everybody. Appreciate it. Thanks.